Namaste and welcome everyone. Thank you for being here with your host, Jim Young. This is the first time I've used my name in all these podcasts. I just assumed you'd know who you were with each week. I'm going to continue that assumption, but just in case there's one or two of you who don't know, there it is. I will continue today with a book with eyes to see. And by the way, in a couple of sessions, we're going to come up with a list of about a dozen things you might want to try out. It might benefit you to either go to my website, theempoweirng.live, to either order a copy of the book or pick one up at your favorite bookstore. That list will be handy for you, I think, and once you see that, I'm sure you want to make up your own, which is a really important thing, that you go to your own center of truth. So let's go to the next chapter. Today's chapter is Abraham, the story of inner work. The story of Abraham in Genesis is a lengthy story of one who's both an advocate with God and a pioneer in faith. Indeed, Abraham exemplifies trust in God. Even into the last legs of his lengthy life, Abraham obeys God, accepts God's commands in perfect faith. I will not attempt to tell the story of Abraham here. Rather, should you be interested, I suggest reading it carefully in the book of Exodus, particularly in chapters 12 through 22, before moving on. My challenge to you then is to see if you can make the bridge from this story as historical fact to seeing it as a series of metaphors for establishing a usable pattern of exercising your own inner journey. This account of our covenant with God was essentially first revealed to me in a presentation by Father Andrew Miles, formerly abbot of the Pecos Benedictine Monastery in Pecos, New Mexico. It has been modified to fit the purpose of this chapter, to establish a working understanding of how our inner voice wishes us to be united with love's purpose for us, particularly as it relates to healing our inner life, so our outer life may one day mirror the original image of our soul's being. As the story of Abraham begins, God calls Abraham to leave his home, to venture to another land. In inner word parlance, our inner voice that speaks in silence continually beckons us to go forth. We are stuck in the vagaries of our past and are called through various means to let go of those impressions on our soul. The tools for fathoming what lies within are many: images, dreams, nature, scripture, characteristics and circumstances, our bodies, and more. More and more we find others who can help us on the journey that is us. We can let go of an old profession, our focus on materialism, our views towards others and things, our various biases and prejudices, false expectations of others, and, of course, ourselves, anything that we thought was serving our purpose. Generally, we aren't aware enough to determine it is time to let go without unconsciously calling ourselves to do so in some profound way. When we mysteriously call ourselves to go forth, it may be just a little next step on our inner journey, a call to faith or trust, or it may be a gigantic leap in faith as we step out not knowing why and where we are headed. It is said that God first whispers to us. The whisper may come in hearing something in a conversation with another that strikes a chord, or it may come as a phrase that jumps out at you in your current reading. If we do not hear the whisper, then we stub our toe. It is our whoops, me too phenomenon. We may express extreme irritation or anger at someone for having failed to do something, when in fact, that expression is a reminder that we too have that in us and have buried it in our shadow. We may point out something we hate in another or in a particular situation, only to find upon self-inspection that we also are capable of that same perpetration, albeit perhaps in a somewhat different manner or circumstance. If we fail to tend to the matter at hand, that is, if we fail to hear the whisper or neglect the stub toe, then we draw to ourselves that which will hit us between the eyes with a 2x4. In a phrase, we up the ante until we get the message. And if we ignore this message, the message only gets stronger and louder until we finally pay attention, or either our body dies or our soul withers. In my life, if my life is any example, I suspect many of us have had to be hit by a 2x4. Let us count the ways we have tried to impress upon ourselves the need to weed our garden now. No matter what the venue or how long we have been deaf and blind to our inner message, pardon me, the same inner voice is committed to be with us in the healing of it all. Of this we can be sure. No matter what the call, what we've learned to call God provides a promise. The promise can come in the form of a personal blessing and or as a blessing for others. Such promises help us to know how important we are in the larger scheme of things. Our purpose to the call results in far greater outcomes than we ever know. We sometimes think we're asked to give up a codependency that we can't do without. Yet we find its impact goes much further than just us and another. Even thinking of beginning causes difficulty, for thinking raises some of our inner demons as defenses against the appropriateness of acting as called. So often I ask how much I can expect to be revealed of this plan in my life, only to find once again the answer, plenty enough. Our response to our inner calling needs to be one of trust that we are one with the voice that is within us. Just as with Abraham, we must go forth not knowing exactly where we are going. Yet we must be obedient to the call, and at least start that first step, and every new step will follow. We must also be patient and persevering, for inner work proceeds not on our time, chronos, but in life's own time, kairos. In full accord with this faith-filled walk, we must have faith in the seemingly impossible. From my own involvement in this method, I know of its immense power to restore me to my essence, even when I saw this as essentially impossible in my mind's eye. I have witnessed it in others, and had it purge the bowels of my soul, cleansing me of things buried far for better than 83 years, for I am now 86 and still at it. We must exercise our faith in resurrection, our raising from the dead, our numbness to our inner voice, our purging of that which no longer needs to live within us, that we indeed may be born anew. Just as in this glorious story of Abraham and Sarah, who laughed to think that God wants him to birth yet another child at age 90, we will be perpetually called to father, that is, to give birth to or to parent, another and yet another new aspect of our lives, while giving trust in this eternally coming home process. Again, just as with Isaac being born to Sarah and Abraham, the gift, whatever it is, will come all in life's natural timing. The inner voice is always faithful. Residing in that awareness, there is always much more than mere fulfillment. Blessings abound. Grace surrounds. Just so will it be in our lives. We will receive the gift of yet another newborn, yet another something long since forgotten, that will purify our souls still more. That something, much like Isaac, may be our most prized possession we will be asked to place on the altar of sacrifice. It will be a symbol of our most precious of the moment, something we unwittingly idolize and thus would not want to give up. Yet it will be used to deepen our awareness yet more, even when we thought it was deep enough. Yet in the sacrifice there is a receiving that far exceeds the gift, for you get your Isaac back in the form of a metaphor, as a parable of the works of Jesus to be told time and time again. so both we and others may be emboldened to continue our journey of faith. You see, whatever we give up, we get back as a parable, and that particular act is integrated into our soul in an individuated manner. Because you tell this parable to others, thus helping them to grow from it, as they in turn share it still with others, your blessing is multiplied manyfold. It is further multiplied each time you respond to this inner call in faith. Whoever gives up life, that is, the former ways of believing and acting, saves his life. Rarely is this truth clearer than in the blessed story of Abraham. Let's go on to the chapter entitled A Giant Step for Mankind. Earlier I mentioned this healing is not the real issue. The real issue is to be aware and maintain our connection to our inner voice, to establish a faithful relationship with its callings. If we really believe the essence of life is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, then this means that this essence is all-knowing, everywhere, and in everything present, and all-powerful. There is no room for anything else. What it really means is that anything contrary to loving essence is nothingness. Two things, life and other than life, cannot exist in the same place, period. Therefore, there really is only life. All else is an erroneous thought that there is something other than life. This belief in two powers, life and all else, is what causes us all our spiritual problems. Such a belief system sets us up with a mindset of we and them, a system of separating ourselves from all the rest of life's creations. It is a trap that establishes our behavior in a pattern of unrelenting competition with one another for all time. That is, until we see the light of truth. The truth is that all is life. Life is all, and thus is you and me. I should say better, and thus are you and me. There is no room for anything else but life, or if you prefer, nothing but loving essence. Being so, this means that you and I are truly in life's image, and as such are nothing but loving essence. We need not be healed of all false beliefs, the illusions we take on as our truth. We only need to recognize, that is, see once again, that we are nothing but loving essence and cannot really demonstrate other than this, unless we forget we are loving essence, in which case we'll behave as though we're not. Indeed, the idea of the ego-driven mind has convinced us that we are something else, a role we play, or someone's expectations of us. Operating in this system keeps us in separation and indifference, and in judgmental nature. Changing our understanding of what we are places us in a system that brings us into our natural state of oneness with all of life, with our only purpose being to demonstrate the same loving essence we are. We always have been nothing but loving essence, always will be, and certainly are now. Just give a few moments to embrace this change in thinking and see yourself operating day by day, moment by moment, with this new self-image. See how you could demonstrate your natural state of loving essence in every situation, in every relationship, within or without. This may seem like an onerous task, to be sure, but once you practice seeing yourself and all others in this light, life takes on a new glow. A presence completely filled with what you already are, loving essence, and thus nothing else you could really be. It is, after all, your spiritual identity, and will become the lenses through which you deal with all of life. There is nothing to heal, nothing to work toward, no lifelong search for our purpose in life. There is only acceptance, the awareness and full acceptance of yourself as the loving essence you are. Once you allow yourself into this realm, you have no more worries, no more angst, Nothing of the kind. When you are in your natural state of loving kindness, none of these disguises for fear are thought to be necessary. Fear itself in all its forms is rendered as a false claim of authenticity, when in fact it is nothingness. Only loving essence fills your mind and heart and soul. Only that is truth for you now. What this means is that there is a decided shortcut to inner peace and joy and fulfillment. Go straight to acknowledging and accepting yourself as a perfect image of the loving essence that permeates all you touch. Or, if you wish, you can stay in your present state of belief in two powers, in separation, and suffer the disabilities that come from a world of internal and external competition. Life, after all, is said to be a matter of choice, and knowing that life is forgiving and loving essence to all we encounter, the only choice that keeps us whole is the infinite, immortal, spiritual beings we already are. Okay, I'll finish today with a chapter on being love. On being love. When we come to see life from its essence, we then live with compassion in our soul and reach beyond surface values to that same oneness that connects us to others and things, to that perfect sense of relatedness. Momentarily, life stands still. We are thus illuminated in our understanding of not only what we are, but our very purpose in being. That enhanced understanding transcends the material world, even as it is revealed to us through the material. From a transcendent perspective, there's a special richness that comes from understanding that even though the appearance of difference and variety between and among us adds spice and depth to life, there's an even higher value that accrues to the essence that is found at the core of every person and thing. In the final analysis, it is that essence which makes us one and the same. The diversity of appearance is overcome by the spiritually loving heart. This leads us to the loving awareness that soul has no color, no religion, no gender, no nationality, indeed not even regionality, sexual orientation, infirmity, or age, and that we therefore need not assign any special value or judgment to such. There's no need any longer. This releases us to experience appearance only as a richness that emanates from our common divine essence, manifesting itself as the glow of, you guessed it, true love. How much better can we feel within ourselves than about life around us when we cast aside the objectification of others, which produces a dreadful feeling of separateness that somehow justifies judging and treating others as different from or beneath ourselves? And in more practical sense, what are some simple things we can do to become further awakened in our divine journey? To the beginning of a list that might be helpful to try follows in the next chapter. The list is hardly comprehensive, and the items come in no particular order of importance or usefulness. Their priority will depend entirely on how they strike you, which is the real issue here, what it is you resonate with. These are things which, in one way or another, have been helpful in my walk. You are welcome to use them, but be assured that if you do not already have one, your very own list will come to you as you practice seeing portions of your life from perspectives somewhat different that you may now be using. Moreover, if any of the ideas, concepts, or ideals in the earlier sections of this book seem to leap out at you, in their own way seem to speak to you, feel free to use them as your own. Ideas are nothing more or less than thought energy, which belong to all of us. There is no singular ownership. We are lent to one another that way. Mediate on them, discuss them with a friend, apply them in your own circumstances, express them in your own unique fashion. You will undoubtedly be led to others as you go within. As you more fully explore relationships, accept all of yourself as but an expression of what you have chosen to retain as your image of yourself. both real and imagined. Keep this in mind. You wouldn't have read this far if you weren't already thirsting for your deepest self, for your true sense of unity, or more truthfully, your re-unity with your true essence of being. The call for unity is life's most natural calling. It is the calling to remember what we are and how, therefore, we are to be. Above all, remember that we are spiritual beings in a physical body, not physical beings with a spirit. Being in spirit is our one true nature, not something tacked onto our lives, some extra to play with. Take your spiritual life seriously. Enjoy your natural expression. Make it your first priority, and all else will fall into balance. When you do, much, if not most, daily stress will disappear in the process. Be assured your inner essence is a blessing every step of this journey that is you. Well, okay, we'll stop here. That's enough for today. Next time we get together, we'll deal with a chapter of the Daily Dozen. Actually, it's a little more than that, and it's a fairly long chapter, so we'll see if we can do it all in one session or not when we get to it next week. Meanwhile, by all means, I think you're very well prepared to go within yourself and to build some guidelines for listening inwardly, faithfully. Okay, well, you know that, of course, that I really like to see these little posts all across the internet that are so wonderfully enriching to our life. It tells me that many of us, if not most of us, hopefully all of us, are on some form of spiritual life, enriching life for us and all those around us. And so here's the post for this week. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive. And then go do that. Do more of that. Because what the world needs are people who have come alive. Harold Whitman put that out there. I don't know who he is, but it's a very wise statement. I'll read it one more time so you can capture it. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive. And then go do that. And I'll add, yes, do more of that. Because what the world needs are people who have come alive. Amen to that, I say. Okay, until next week then, folks, stay alive. By all means, share your aliveness with all around you. It will inspire them to also be alive. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, namaste. I love you.